All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit more about lockdowns, and it's something I brought up a lot before, obviously, but this is from Paul Joseph Watson linking to an article saying a third national lockdown will be considered if, you know what, infections continue to rise after Christmas. And he says a third lockdown because the first two worked so well. And I wanted to bring this up because this is something that we're seeing. This is something that we're seeing. We're already on, a second round of lockdowns, and you know, in Alberta, again, it's only supposed to be a month. Is it actually going to end up being a month? I don't know. The numbers are looking a little bit better lately, but again, the numbers are so heavily manipulated, and there's so much more you could go into as far as the numbers go. I really don't know. Um, so again, like I don't know what's going to happen here. I really don't know what's going to happen because if they open back up and the numbers creep up at all, there's going to be calls for more lockdowns, right? And this is the thing too, that at no point have the hospitals, at least as a whole, been over. Sorry, at no point have they been overwhelmed, like completely. Like at no point have they been overwhelmed. So this is the problem that I've constantly brought up, is that I don't understand how people can still take the government and these public health officials seriously, knowing that they've been warning us that the hospitals are going to be overwhelmed and stuff going back since day one. Like, did they honestly not do the math? Like, did they honestly not do the math that at the time? Like, obviously, there's a little more that goes into this, but again, they were telling us that we had to lock down back last spring because the hospitals are going to be overwhelmed if we don't. Um, and we peaked at like 300 cases a day back in the spring. Now, obviously, because we weren't testing more, the numbers probably would have been higher than that. But let's just say double, like six, 700. We still had nowhere near the amount. Now, again, when you adjust for testing, I think it would have been somewhat comparable. But that's the thing. Like, if the hospitals weren't overwhelmed then, and here's the other thing too, the cases don't matter too, because regardless of whether or not you have it, if you have it seriously enough that you need to go to the hospital, but you haven't been tested positive for it, it still is the same thing as far as the hospital goes. So again, whether or not the numbers were wherever you want to argue they're at based off testing, it really doesn't matter. Um, but like I say, if the hospitals weren't overwhelmed then what makes them think that they're going to be overwhelmed this time around? Like we had no mask wearing, we had no, or sorry, we had minor restrictions on social gatherings. We were still allowed to visit friends and get together and stuff, at least to some degree, and they weren't overwhelmed. So again, what makes them think it's going to happen this time around? Like, and this is the thing that I brought up too, is that there's no reason anybody should take these people seriously, like absolutely none whatsoever. And the simple reason being is that either they've grossly misled us this entire time, in that they told us they were going to be overwhelmed when there was no possible way they would have been overwhelmed knowing what the numbers were, especially once we got into April actually knowing more about this, right? So it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason whatsoever to have lockdowns. Again, I'm trying to go over a list of possible reasons in my mind, and there's nothing. And the reason that we're continuing to see lockdowns is very simple, in that the people that have been wrong this entire time, the public health officials, the politicians, all these kind of people, they just don't want to admit they're wrong. They don't want to admit they're wrong. No, again, the lockdown zealots would say the same thing the other way around. But no, I've been very clear this entire time. What it would take for someone like me to be wrong is very, very simple. It's very simple. Number one, a clear correlation between lockdowns and a clear reduction in cases. To not, oh, Australia exists, therefore you're wrong. No, there's several European countries that completely debunk that. There's several states that debunk that. Almost every Canadian province debunks that again. So you have literally hundreds of options, and you can literally only think of two places off the top of your head. Like, come on, that's nowhere near enough evidence, like nowhere near. And I'll get into that a little bit later because I do have a chart pulled up that I wanted to talk about. But again, the reason is very simple, that these people face no negative ramifications whatsoever for being wrong. The one of the main reasons I think that these people are making these decisions is because if excess people are dying from the virus, that is something that they're going to have to answer for. That is something that they're going to face negative ramifications for. if we have a Great Depression going forward, if we have double-digit unemployment for years to come, if we have record levels of suicide, which I believe we have, record levels of drug overdoses, which I believe we have as well, that's not something that they're going to have to face right now, right? That we've had more people die of opiate overdoses than we have of the virus. Is any politician facing questions about that? No, right? So again, the mainstream media decides what people need to be worried about, and if the government doesn't focus their entire all of their attention towards that, then they will be vilified. They will be like, just imagine if a major politician came out tomorrow and seriously questioned lockdowns or mask mandates. They would be so viciously vilified in the media, it's not even funny, even though they would be right, at least depending on what they said, but they would be right. So again, the problem coming out of this whole situation is, number one, the mainstream media is absolutely terrible, like absolutely terrible, the worst thing in the world. Um, they've been grossly misleading people this entire time. They not to mention too, like the amount of stuff they got wrong is absolutely insane. Have they ever admitted any mistakes? No. Have they ever called the government or these health officials on any mistakes? No. The only time they call out the politicians is that, oh, they're not locking down enough, right? They're not locking down enough. They don't have enough restrictions, right? It's just pure and utter insanity. So, and again, it's like I brought up yesterday too, that this whole situation, it's getting really boring and tiring having to deal with, because again, it's just the same stuff over and over again. It's the same stuff over and over again. The story basically goes, cases go up, more lockdowns. Lockdowns have no effect, more lockdowns, right? It's just the same stuff over and over again, right? And even if the cases come down, does anybody say, yeah, we can open back up now, we're good to go? No, they're gonna, the people that want lockdowns, they're gonna want lockdowns no matter how many cases we have. We were having like 50 cases a day for a good amount of time back in what was it, like June? I don't remember exactly when it was. Maybe it was July. I was reading through comments, and there's still tons of people being like, "Oh, we're not out of the woods yet. Why are we getting rid of restrictions?" Like again, it doesn't matter how many cases. This is another reason why the cases are meaningless. It doesn't matter how many we have. The people that want lockdowns are gonna want them no matter what. Now, why do so many people want lockdowns? I think it's very clear that, I mean, I think there's a lot of people, like I've said before, that um, they disagree with at least some of this stuff, but they're going along with it under the guise that, oh, it's just temporary, and they're afraid of being, viciously vilified by other people, right? I think that's why most people, I think, don't agree with all this stuff, but they reluctantly go along with it for various reasons. But as far as the people who do want the lockdowns, I've noticed it's largely just an excuse for people with no ambition to have no ambition. There are people that would love to sit at home all day and watch TV and do nothing, and now they have an excuse for that. Like, the boomers who are on their, on old age security and their whatever other retirement stuff they have. Yeah, they would love to do that. Not all of them, obviously. There's a lot of exceptions, but on average, the people that have no life, nothing going for them, and want it to be that way, they love it. They just love it, right? So, um, yeah, the next thing I wanted to bring up is from Kevin Sorbo here, and this is a very good point. He says the left only listens to the science when it agrees with their views, and this whole virus situation is a textbook example of that. In that, again, you constantly hear, "Oh, we got to listen to the science and the experts and all this kind of stuff," and because these people live in such echo chambers, um, they genuinely believe that everyone agrees with them. Like, but it's because they live in such an echo chamber. There is thousands of quote unquote experts, of doctors and medical professionals that are questioning lockdowns and all this garbage that's going on. Is that enough for them to reconsider their views? No, absolutely not. And not to mention too, a lot of these people, their pay depends upon this kind of stuff, right? Their pay depends upon this kind of stuff. It's like I brought up too. It is borderline impossible as a human being to make rational decisions when there is so much of an incentive to make a decision in one way, shape, or form. It is almost impossible to do that, right? So again, it's a very good point. They only listen to the science when it agrees with them. This is the thing you constantly hear about people nowadays justifying the lockdowns. It's, oh, we got to play it safe. We got to play it safe. We did, and questioning the motives going back to day one. They said, oh, we didn't know a whole lot about it back then. Well, we do know a whole lot about it right now. What we do know is that if you're not, in a nursing home or have multiple serious health conditions, you have nothing to be worried about. That is something we do know. So again, why do we have restrictions on everyday human beings? Why do we have? It doesn't make any sense. There is no scientific justification to lock down healthy human beings. There is no scientific basis for that, none whatsoever. And speaking of the charts that I wanted to bring up, again, this is from Paul Mitchell here, and he shows us some charts here. I mean, number one, you look at these different areas. Now, again, these are European countries here. It looks like. Um, so let's look at these. These are mask mandates here. So you have Austria again. They mandated masks after the curve was already going down. So you could maybe argue that masks made a little bit of an effect there. Same goes for Germany, although things were trending down a lot more in Germany. Spain implemented them after the curve was already long flattened. Same goes for France. The UK did it like in the middle of a low spot. Same goes for Belgium. Italy mandated them right as they were going up. Same goes for Hawaii. Um, California did the same thing. But you look at Texas and Georgia here. Yeah, their curves. I can't read that. Anyway, but their curves are pretty steady as well. But they don't have a lot of these stupid restrictions. So again, every one of these charts I think is very, especially France, especially Spain, especially the UK, Belgium, Hawaii, Italy, California. Those are all textbook prime examples of the masks not working, right? The masks, they don't work. Now, it's like I brought up too with these people, like I've always brought up, is that you brought up to these people, their excuse for the mask not working seems to be, number one, they are working, but the reason they're not working more is people aren't wearing them properly, right? But again, like I always bring up, I remember telling these people multiple times, talking with tons of people on Reddit and Twitter and other places as well, that again, the mask mandates aren't going to work. Not enough, not enough people wear them properly. They're not going to do anything. This is what I told these people. And what did every single one of them tell you? Oh, they said, oh, no, no. Even if it's some people wearing them, it's still going to make a difference. Even if some people wear them, it's still going to make a difference. Well, what ended up happening? Well, did some people wearing them properly make a difference? No, it didn't. Right? So again, like this is the thing that bothers me most about this situation is that these people can be wrong so much, like so much, but yet never admit it. Never admit it. Doesn't matter how wrong they are, they never admit it. And the last thing I wanted to bring up here is kind of an interesting point here. This is from a new Radicalcentrism, and they say the percentage growth in the number of healthcare administrators compared to that in physicians, that tiny, barely visible yellow silver at the bottom of the graph is growing. The growth in physicians and the towering alpine peaks on the top of it is growth in administrators. And this is what I brought up a lot before, that you have these people that complain about healthcare and all this kind of stuff. And again, the reason why it's the problem with this kind of stuff isn't not enough money, right? It's not that there's not enough money, right? The problem is that there's too many bureaucrats making too much money. That's what the problem is. And this is the reason why the left solution is so insane on this, is that what is the left solution? I mean, what did the NDP in Alberta do? They just hire tons of public sector workers, right? It doesn't matter if it's going to fix the problem or not. The solution is always um, the solution is always to hire more public sector employees, hire more union people, right? That's what the solution for them is always going to be. And if they want to say, oh, no, that's a stupid argument, you're an idiot, well, okay, well, where are you complaining about this kind of stuff? Right? Where are they complaining about, college professors or public school teachers making too much money? Have they ever complained about that? No, they don't complain about that. It is entirely The goal is entirely, let's get as much money and power in the hands of leftists as possible. That is what their solution is, right? It's very obvious and very clear. Um, so anyway, if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I say, hit that like and subscribe. Check out those links and stay tuned for more.